What is a theory, you might ask? A theory is a carefully thought out explanation for observations of the natural world that has been constructed using a scientific method, and which brings together many facts and hypotheses.
Did you know theories come in many shapes and sizes? Conspiracy, behavioral, psychological, evolutionary, grand, and the theory of life itself, and many more. There is no lack of theories in the world we all call home. This is what drives me and my brother to question everything. We welcome you to the very first episode of the Muse Theory Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We're excited to get started here. It's me and my brother Brandon.
Hello, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Zach.
Sorry, I was pulling up my notes.
Oh, you're fine. This is a theory podcast that me and my brother do, and we are going to be talking today about the 90s. But, you know, before we get into all that, we kind of wanted to let you know who we are, why we do this, and...
Why are you listening?
Why are you listening? And...
Who are these randos?
Yeah. We're trying to get to the big questions.
We're looking for the big answers. We may not find these big answers, but maybe, just maybe, I don't know where I was going with that, but
yeah,
just maybe, you know what I'm saying? See, we're still looking for the answers. I don't even know the answers to that.
Yeah. But so,
42, I guess.
42. So me and Brandon have always been people that...
We're always people.
We're always people.
We've always been people. I'm sorry.
We've always been people that... We always want to take things apart, analyze them, and try to understand how things really work. And that's just...
Question everything.
We question everything. We want to figure out how everything works. So that's why this podcast is such a great idea for me and Brandon, because there's times that we easily can just go down rabbit holes. It's something that we love to do. It's something
pretty big too.
Yeah, it's something that
we definitely jump head first in these things. And not only do we like to take things apart in that sense of like those types of things, like on paper or just thinking, but we also like to take things apart physically too, like with technology. So we always look for something to break down and fix even. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't fix theories, but you can try to fix those things, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. You can at least try to fix those
Welcome
things.
to the podcast where, I rant. Train of thought. That's how I do. That's my train of thought. So you gotta get used to that. Welcome.
Oh yeah, that don't worry. I'll definitely try and reel him in from time to time, but I've got to let him go wild too.
Exactly. Thornberries.
Yeah. All right. So with that, everyone, welcome to the 90s. Let us set the stage for you and immerse you in this era. Join us as me and Brandon get caught up with our own nostalgia while making you either join us in the fond memories or make you forget you didn't grow up with them. That just means we are doing our job. Then later, we will get to what the 90s has kept from you in its closet, or things that have been lost to that time that it doesn't want you to remember. Let's begin.
Let's go. Imagine this. You're in your PJs. Oh man, they're so comfortable. You're about 10 years old. Or older, I'm not sure. But you got your CRT television. And on the background you hear that familiar commercial that you've always heard in the morning. You just got a fresh haircut from your dad. You know, he put a bowl on your head. What do you know? You got some favorite posters on the wall. NSYNC, Britney Spears. Oh, there's Legos everywhere. Be careful when you're going into the kitchen to get you some bagel bites, pizza rolls, and so much more. Don't forget. You're pulling out your bowl of cereal, you're eating your Cocoa Puffs, and then you hear us. The Muse Theory Podcast.
All right, we want to thank Brandon for that wonderful intro and to getting you guys in the mood as we talk about nostalgia.
It was all off my head.
That was pretty good, I'm not going to lie.
It could be better.
So, when we think of nostalgia, there's a lot of things that come to mind. I mean, me and Brandon grew up in the 90s. So, I want I want to take off by first asking Brandon a question.
Ooh,
What are the foods that you remember most vividly in the 90s?
that's a good one because that'll definitely go from what I was just talking about. Um, I'm not ashamed to admit that most of the foods that I'll probably remember are the same ones that I still get from the grocery store to this day. And that will be, our beautiful Tostinos pizza
Mm.
rolls, mostly pepperoni. But I think back then I got the ones mostly that came in the cardboard box. The kids' cuisine meals, they're still on the shelf, or still in the freezer. Those little like microwave dinners for children. I remember Jug. Uh, the Jug. It's not really food, but the thing I remember a lot of is the Jug bubble gum. It's like the pink one that we get from the Dollar Tree.
Oh yeah, no, that's oh
Um,
man, yeah. You could make that bubble gum. You feel like it would last forever.
oh, it's so good. You just chug that back.
Well,
Uh,
it's crazy. I mean, it was just like it was. What's the word? Glutton. It was like
it's
gluttony of
gluttony,
yeah,
gluttony.
gluttony of bubble gum.
Um, I
Oh
remember baby bottle pops. That's candy. A lot of it's candy.
yeah.
Because candy used to be good. So, but now it's like it's still good, but it's like 3 a.m. You're like searching for sweetness, and that's when it's good for me. So
Fair.
that's what I remember.
Okay. Um. Ooh, okay. Actually, just taking a look at some things off the top of my head, I potato smileys are one
Oh,
that I see right here that I think are great.
remember those
Now
in
those are
school?
still yeah. I still like vividly remember them throughout school, even up into my high school years though. Um,
They're amazing. The kids love them.
the potato smileys. I mean,
Yeah, my son.
it's like French fries are cool, but I would rather have like if I could
Ooh.
have them in
Mhm.
potato smiley form, absolutely.
Um, one food I remember that's apparently mostly in the 90s, according to the article we were looking at the other day, um, is the Dino Nuggies. A funny fact: me and my fiance, when we first started dating, um, we ate mostly Dino Nuggies, and we still that's a little cherished memory from me to
Mm.
you guys. Little Dino Nuggies. You guys remember
That's
Dino Nuggies?
that's sweet, Brandon. You let them know that little
It's a little
personal little
personal,
thing.
little personal thing there.
Yeah.
Now, since you put me on the spot asking me a question,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna return the favor. Now, speaking of food, we'll go ahead and do one more food here.
Okay.
Um, as far as like nutrition goes, like compared to today,
Mm-hmm.
um, from the 90s, which is hard to remember because you were a child.
Yeah.
Let's just take it in this context. Do you think people ate differently back then? Like, were they the same kind of thing? Because I
Yes.
definitely don't eat
Okay, so
differently.
I think in a way definitely yeah. I mean, I still the cherished like I see here for instance bologna and white bread sandwich. Um, a lot of people have these like core memories they talk about with bologna like outside the pool. Like you just got out of the pool and you put on a towel and you ate like a bologna sandwich and then they're like, oh, that's that's a vivid thing for them.
Yeah, the
But
smell or taste.
what I really want to get on about um, if people ate differently, it would be that people cooked a lot more with people would literally store lard in buckets underneath like their
Oh,
sink.
I think Nanny did that.
Hmm.
Our
And
grandmother used to do that as well. It was a big 90s thing.
store the fat and then
Earlier than that.
reuse it to cook. um
It's like
but
that.
yeah, no, there was definitely a lot of
Yeah,
I feel like they were different.
it's a good answer. I give you 1 point.
Well, thank you.
One,
The one
one,
point
one
on
point. What's a point or like something?
just 1 point
One,
for
one point. One
anything.
point. I was trying to think of something that would relate to the 90s. It would be 1 point. Oh,
A
you
gold
get one
star.
pog.
Gold star, maybe.
You get one gold star.
There we go.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
loved those.
All right, here's a good one for you. Do you think food was healthy then?
It kind of goes back to the um, thing we were talking about. For I think I don't know how true this is, um, but according to a lot of people I've heard or just around the internet, is the red 40 dye that's in foods now was also really prevalent back in the 90s as well. So some stuff was kind of still unregulated. But if you're, it's probably about the same. It might have got worse. It might have been less um, like artificial preservatives and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about it like
But
this. What about when how we see like all these non-GMO and like
yeah,
yeah,
who
there was a
knows what
big
we were
thing of like
eating?
gluten-free, and then
The
I mean, but that
Lord.
was kind of like I feel like prevalent to just people like more medical studies, but um
Yeah, so apparently red 40 is bad. If you eat it when you're a kid, a lot, it actually agitates AD or even it mimics ADHD symptoms. So
like the dye.
yeah, the red 40 dye, which is basically just crushed up bugs.
Did you
So
did you know that Aldi's, even in their store brand, they actually won't use dyes? Isn't that crazy?
well, I'm gonna go to Aldi's and check on that because
Yeah.
there's one down the street from us.
Yeah. Um.
Hmm.
So with setting and talking about nostalgia, another thing that us growing up in the '90s is you want to talk about toys. Um. So Brandon,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a random question here
Oh
about
no,
toys. What toy was your favorite and why?
just one toy.
Mm-hmm.
All
What
right.
was your absolute favorite that you can remember?
Um, the main thing that sticks out immediately will always be Pokemon cards. Just Pokemon cards in general. It's not really a toy. If I had to choose
Yeah.
like a toy instead of a card, uh, man, that's a hard one. I'd have to really think. Me and you used to play like the wrestling toys a lot, so we get like the old WWE toys,
We
and we'd
did.
come home from school, and I'd be like, "Let's go play toys." That's what we call it.
Let's go play toys. Yeah.
Play toys.
And I also remember us having
You keep talking while I think of my answer.
yeah, okay.
Let's see.
I remember whenever we would be out in our backyard and we would play with like Digimon convertible like toys, like
Oh, those are
transform
cool.
them. And then I remember like we had some like Gundams and like things like that. And then I remember
I know what it is. I know what it is. Um, it's a little bit early. I don't know if it should be close. Our other grandmother, our mamaw, bought me Toy Story. It was huge in the '90s. So Woody, my Woody doll, it was the old Woody doll, and he'd pull his string, and he, talk about that snake that's in his boot. That was my favorite thing. I slept with it all the time, and he was a good old pal.
yeah.
It's really, really. I was his Andy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
another thing to really just that's a very sweet thing. You have
in
a great
Pokemon
way of
cards,
building relationships.
especially with stuffed animals.
Even from the beginning, man, you were building relationships. Just it's very sweet. I
Hmm.
Creepy crawlers was another one that I'm just looking through here, and creepy crawlers, like the with the oven and everything like that, you would make bugs, and it was just like
It's
one of the
creepy.
coolest things is they were just creepy, and then one I know Brandon would like was the Crazy Bones, which we just recently discovered those again.
Yeah,
Um,
as we were looking through this article,
yeah, and we didn't even know.
there's
We totally forgot about these. I mean, you look that up, you will absolutely know what that is.
if you guys would like to have some visual aid, if you're not driving, don't do this. If you're driving, don't play with your phone. It's called gaminggorilla.com and it's slash best 90s toys. So if you go there,
Hmm.
check it out, and there's like a list of them. How many is it? Like
Oh, it's
50?
50. Yeah.
There's 50 of them. And number 40 is Crazy Bones. And I'll give you a visual aid. Basically, they're just tiny little figures, and they would come in different games such as jacks or marbles. And they became a huge fad back then, though. I remember that. I think ours were like secondhand. We probably found them in like just digging bins or something. Who knows?
Oh yeah, it was easily
But
just like secondhand.
I just want
Easily.
to touch them for
Yeah.
sure. I just want to feel them,
It would be great to see
maybe
him
lick one.
again. This isn't exactly a specific toy, but maybe this would be a memory for some people. But
Hmm.
um, I thoroughly enjoyed the prizes in class that you would win, and it would literally these things do not have any value, but it was literally like gooey slap hands that you could just stick to everything on the walls.
Oh my God, kids had some of those the other day,
Did they?
and they got broken fast.
Yep.
Same
That's
thing.
same.
You
It
can get them
hasn't
at the Dollar
changed
Tree.
no matter what. Us as kids or your kids, it's still gonna be that's gonna be it. You
You still get
did you
them at the
say you could get them
Dollar
at the Dollar
Tree.
Tree?
Yeah,
Dollar
we're
Tree?
not sponsored, but everything will probably come back to the Dollar Tree, and I have loads of stories, including Pokemon cards. I think Yu-Gi-Oh too. You could get from the
Yeah.
Dollar Tree.
Yeah, I think you can get like
Mystery
small packs.
bags.
You used yeah, in mystery bags. But Brandon has a correlation. Everything can come back to Dollar Tree. It is the one tree that has dollars.
But it is though, like, I mean,
It's a mystical
no, no,
being.
no, no. It's like '90s in particular. It does kind of like, I guess that's a core memory that always triggers when I think about the '90s.
We did spend a lot of time at Dollar Tree. It
Oh,
was a lot of
dude,
great things.
I always wanted to take like $100. If anybody else wanted to do this, take $100 and go to the $1.25 tree. That's not cool.
That
And
does
then
cut
just buy a
down a
bunch of
little bit
stuff. Yeah,
when
it
you're
cuts out on
spending
your
a
stuff.
dollar.
I've always wanted to do that. So let me know on our Reddit, on our subreddit. Yeah, go to our subreddit. Come talk to us. We love you.
You
But
know, that was actually there was many things that we had got from the Dollar Tree. There was little ninja action figures. The definitely the dollar grab bags. Now, of course,
candy
there was
pop.
a thing that happened with when we were young. We would try to get a little extra out of the dollar grab bags.
We don't discuss that on here. You'll come after us.
Yes, Dollar Tree will make will come
These
for us.
bags were $1 and they were loaded with goodies.
They had all kinds of goodies. I mean, you never
Let's
know what you're gonna
say
get. That was the
allegedly,
mystery of it.
allegedly, hypothetically, some random guy came in and was like a child in the time, and he just decided
Yeah, it was just a child.
to stuff extra things in his little baggie and then check out with it. But that's
See,
not something we endorse.
yeah, absolutely not. A
If I
child wouldn't
found
know
that
any
guy who did
different.
that, I would be very upset. So.
Yeah, see, you definitely would be reprimanded, and that is definitely something you don't want to do, and it's something we didn't do. But in that scenario, where there could be more things in a dollar grab bag, it was a good thing.
Yeah, they didn't weigh them.
Yeah, there was no weight; you just got it for $1.
So let's just say that's probably why there's no more Dollar Tree bags, because of that random guy.
Okay, so
It's not a
speaking
mystery. Yeah, speaking.
speaking of childhood memories,
Mhm.
Brandon, do you remember? Do you want to talk about our movie store visits a little bit?
All right, there was a hometown movie store, and it was literally called the movie store, right? And I could go on about this. So it was Nintendo 64 days. So you know how you'd go out to like Blockbuster. It's like a small town Blockbuster, basically. It was like in a little trailer. The guy, the owner, was really nice, him and his wife. Dad would take us there every weekend. We would rent us a game for the weekend, get us a Little Caesars pizza, back when the pizza was good.
Yeah, it was definitely different back then.
Crazy bread, man.
Crazy bread
Made
was
from Crazy
delicious
Bones.
then. I don't know if it's just the nostalgia of it, including with the movie
Yes.
store, but let me tell you, me and Brandon, like, we lived to go to that movie store and rent a game, and even potentially rent a console as well.
Oh, that was fun.
So we could always do something new. You don't have that experience now where you can easily just go rent a game and rent a console in that fashion. And we didn't have the internet; it wasn't as prevalent.
No internet.
So it
Well, there was
was
internet, but yeah,
we
it
just
wasn't
had to
prevalent.
try games. We didn't review. We didn't know anything about it. So it was just
We had to use our dad's neighbor, a friend of dad, and a neighbor. What am I trying to say?
one of the
A friend
neighbors
of the
that we lived.
family.
Yeah, a friend of the family that
He had the internet, and for games we would have to for cheat codes we would have to use dad. Be like, Dad, please go and get us some
yes.
cheat codes and bring them back on a written piece of paper.
Yes, it was great, man. Those
So,
papers,
but we
we
could
got all kinds of
definitely.
cheat codes from just getting them written down, like literally just pulling them up on an old computer and then being able to write them down. And we'd have them in the game case.
That's the way things were back then,
That was
man.
it, man.
Pen and paper, pencil, probably.
I would say so. So, Brandon, as far as this is another interesting thing that isn't like it is now, but when it comes to technology,
Hmm.
um, you know, whenever there was things like, and these are really archaic things and it's funny to say now, but rotary phones, cassettes, VCR, and camcorders. So a lot of people,
I
like, if
loved
you're
camcorders.
if you're 15 plus right now, I don't even know if you've touched one of
Listen,
these things.
listen. If you're a younger viewer, I
15 or
appreciate you
younger.
being here. That's awesome. Welcome.
Yes, but let
Um,
us enlighten you on what
I was just
this
gonna
is
ask him a
like.
question.
What were you going to ask them?
When you say so, pretend somebody's telling you to pretend like you're answering the phone with your hand, do you make a solid open hand and put it to your ear, or do you make like the shocker bra symbol and put it to your ear?
Yeah,
Let us
like if
know.
you're like a surfer symbol, would you take it up there, or how would you? Yeah, what would you
Yeah.
symbol?
That really tells the difference. A rotary phone was basically an old school device that you put your finger in a tiny little hole. If you ever watch Powerpuff, just look up Powerpuff Girls red phone, and that'll show you exactly what it is.
You had to turn for each single
Yeah.
digit and let it spin back, and then you do that for each individual digit.
Yeah, there was no screen.
No screen.
It was terrifying. What if how many?
Just
You'd have to
numbers.
remember how many numbers you put in.
It's crazy.
I know my brain.
So, Brandon, in reference to all of those things, what are some of the nuances you remember about them?
I remember camcorders specifically being very big, and then they would use cassette tapes. I remember that, and then the tiny little screens. I just remember playing with those all the time. It was such a like a benefit or a
Well, what would you say
wholesome
was
thing.
somebody now would realize like how difficult it was to
like how-
navigate? Like the fact that you can literally pick up your phone and record immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, okay, so like if you I'm just gonna keep using the camcorder VCR for example. In order, most of the camcorders back then in the 90s, you would have to put a giant cassette tape,
or
which
VCR.
or it's like a VCR tape basically.
Well, some of them you
So
can even put a
imagine
VCR
this,
tape in.
or the not even digital cameras, but like the throwaway. There were these things called throwaway cameras.
Yeah, throwaway cameras, which
So-
I know you guys think are super retro right now, and you're really into like the Kodak or the
These are the ones that
Instaprints.
I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the ones that you would buy at
and get developed.
the dollar store, not Dollar Tree, because those are too big. But you would just imagine, guys. Okay,
Couldn't
so
fit that in
you're
a
looking at
grab
your
bag.
phone now and you're taking a selfie.
We couldn't shove that in our dollar grab bag.
Yeah, you take a selfie and then you're like, oh, it looks pretty good. And then you don't like it. Just imagine having to send it off to a company at like Walmart and wait a month or even maybe a week,
Yeah, like a couple weeks.
couple of weeks, and then
And
come
then-
back and then they're all, your thumbs over the camera the whole time. So imagine
Yeah, or
that.
just
that's
an awful-
that's something.
That's it in a nutshell.
Pretty
Okay,
cool stuff.
so Brandon, what do you remember hearing most from our family as kids?
Go outside.
Yes, go outside.
Go play.
See, as a parent now, how do you feel that is like, do you feel like, man, I need that time? Or do you feel like that was like a way that they were just like, man, I need to get him out of the house, or like I need space, or like,
think-
what do you.
Just like I think it comes down to some of the topics we're going to talk about later in the episode about just like what people fear new things. And I think it comes down to the fact that the older generation was still scared of technology, so we were inside using a lot of technology all the time. That's what we were involved in, like we talked about.
We
So they
grew
were
up with it.
scared and
So it was a strong point of ours. Yeah.
afraid of, if something's messing up their mind or your brain or whatever from using so much tech, which I could say, I could see that nowadays.
Yeah, easily, but
It's
not in our
not back
time,
then.
because it was still it was in its infancy and it was growing with us. But yeah, now it's definitely much more
I
prevalent.
mean, we did go outside though. We played
all the time.
we played in creeks. Dad made us makeshift pools out in creeks and rivers back then.
Oh yeah,
It's
it
a
was
little
awesome.
later, not in the 90s probably, but it was a little later.
A little
than
later, and then of course, yeah, we even went. We even went
Clubhouses.
as it was pretty great. He even went as far as to make us out of boxes. He would construct massive what's a good way to say it? Like
It was like old school 90s hamster colored, different colored tubes that they would climb through.
yeah,
It wouldn't be. It was sort of like that.
it was crafted. Yeah,
He treated us as
like
hamsters,
a maze.
basically.
Yeah, it was awesome.
He's like, I love my hamsters. I'm gonna build them a maze. No, it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, and so with that,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna go ahead and take a break, guys, and then when we get back, we are going to get into some theories.
Some Muse theories, bro. The rise of the internet. The 1990s saw the rise of the internet as a global phenomenon that would transform communication, commerce, and culture. The development of the World Wide Web was introduced by British computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee in 1991. This allowed for the creation of easy-to-use web browsers, which made the internet accessible to a wider audience. The accessibility led to explosive growth in the internet usage, with the number of websites increasing from just a few hundred in 1993 to over 2 million by the end of the decade. This growth was fueled by the development of innovative technologies such as search engines, online marketplaces, and email, which made the internet more useful and engaging for users. The 1990s also saw the emergence of key players in the tech industry, including Amazon, Google, and Yahoo, which would go on to be some of the most influential companies in the world. The rise of the internet also had significant impact on traditional media, such as newspapers, magazines, and television shows. These networks were forced to adapt to a new digital landscape. Overall, the 90s were a transformative decade for the internet, paving the way for the online world as we know it today.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with some theories that are relative to the rise of the internet. The first one that is very interesting from the rise of the internet is around that time period, there was something called the global village theory. This theory, proposed by Marshall McLuhan in the 1960s.
Good pronunciation.
Thank you. Suggested that modern communication technologies would bring people closer together and create a global village. The internet was seen as the ultimate realization of this idea, allowing people from all over the world to connect and communicate instantly. I mean...
So is it Facebook?
So, I mean, essentially...
Or it was MySpace.
This guy was right. I mean, essentially...
That's 1960s.
He saw the forefront of social media, or the fact that the internet would just bring this entire village together.
Yeah. So he pictured it as like literally like a city or a village because it'd be closer. He figured that's how close he think people would get. But that's now I would see it as like being in a bedroom.
It is, yeah, much more a bedroom.
Like next to each other instead of a village sometimes. But that's a crazy theory for somebody to come up with back in 1960.
Exactly. I mean, I thought
right.
pretty well. He was. It's arguing to say that it could be, a little diverging. Like people could be a little more distant, but at the same time, people have become closer.
We're closer in the sense that we can talk to each other immediately whenever we feel like it. Exactly. And news is always out immediately. And just information and data in general.
Yeah.
Very cool guy. Marshall McLuhan.
I really like that one.
Is it McLuhan? McLuhan? McLovin. Very nice. What do you guys think about that one? Let's see here. Zach, did you also know there's something called the long tail theory? Somebody named Chris Anderson, it was back in 2004. This theory suggested that the internet would also allow for creation of distribution of niche content, which is basically what we're doing right now, and products, which is like a YouTuber's
like a YouTuber's channel, or like a small marketplace.
Yeah, something like that. You'd be able to find a small but dedicated audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was seen as a challenging the dominance of the mass market, of the media, of products.
Okay, so think about that, actually. Hold on.
These are like predictions.
That's like...
Straight predictions.
Okay, almost. So it's like it's straight predictions. I mean, it's
a theory.
It's like TV shows versus YouTube in the early 2000s.
I'd much rather watch YouTube.
Yeah, it's like... Well, no, it's not even YouTube in the early 2000s. It's TV shows versus YouTube.
You're right, traditional media is getting
celebrities versus real people on YouTube.
And that's what's so funny is I think celebrities are having a rougher time, in my opinion, to keep up with some of these awesome people who can pull up a phone right now immediately and just start going make some of the best content you've ever seen in the entire planet.
That's what that theory is. Yeah, like the Muse Theory podcast.
Or Distractable.
Or Distractable, or I even like the No Sleep podcast.
Speaking of podcasts, how about Bigfoot Collectors Club?
You like them too?
I'm just kidding, guys. Go listen to them all.
They're all very good.
When we're not recording.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so...
That's a good theory.
That is a very good one.
That was called the long tail.
Yeah, if you guys want to look into that, the long tail theory, if you want some more details. So, also, another one that looks interesting here. Oh, okay. Yeah. So we'll get a little bit on the you get
on the crazy side,
the crazy conspiracy side. There's and this one I feel like still hold like a lot of people. There's still some out there, but it's chemtrails.
Chemtrails.
Some people believed that the white trails left behind by airplanes were actually chemicals being
it.
sprayed into the atmosphere for nefarious purposes.
You picture like a
such
dude with a long mustache and driving in the airplane. He's
yeah, some little evil guy who's like spreading around chemicals trying to kill us
just
randomly.
flying around with his little dog.
But it was such as mind control or weather modification. Now, weather modification has actually been proved to be true, that they would actually try to adjust weather in certain areas by dropping things.
These chemicals to mix with to get inside of the because if they make clouds,
the clouds,
then it would make cover, which would change.
Well, it was for like droughts and spots that to make it rain.
Make it rain.
So I mean, in a way, yes, but not in the fact that they're out there trying to just. There's random people out there just trying to harm us with chemicals.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. It's a nefarious theory. That's fun to say.
Okay, Brandon. There's I see one that you should definitely take up the alley there.
Let's talk about the alien cover-ups. You know they're there. These are true. No, I'm not joking. If you think I'm being funny, I'm not being funny. I could go on about all kinds of stuff like Roswell. But many people believe the government was covering up the existence of extraterrestrial life, and that the evidence of UFO sightings and encounters was being suppressed. And they were being suppressed. And they still are.
And what's important to take away from this, the reason that this is brought up, the theories are in the rise of the internet, is that a lot of these things were brought about because of the internet. A lot of these ideals came into place.
People were able to spread their information a lot quicker back in the 90s, even though the internet would take like 1,000 years to load up a page.
What were they called? Where people were
forums.
Forums, yeah.
Those are still a thing. Blogs, forums.
Well, yeah.
You're thinking of instant messengers.
Well, no, I was thinking of forums, but they were much more prevalent back then.
Oh yeah, that was like there was no
that
Facebook
was the form of social communication.
MySpace.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
I know there's some probably more examples that would happen around that period.
Well, okay. Here's I don't want to. There's another theory here that I really want to go over real quick. So this one is called the death of distance theory, and I thought this one was really interesting. It suggests that the internet would make physical distance irrelevant and enable people to work and collaborate remotely.
Dude, that's immediately reminding me of just like in 2019.
Hey, yeah. It was believed that this would lead to a more decentralized and distributed economy with people working from anywhere in the world. I mean, so remote jobs were very prevalent recently. I mean, so that's interesting. And then
now they're really prevalent, like overall.
It's true. And if you think decentralize and distribute, that Bitcoin, things like that, that was definitely kind of a, that was something that definitely gained prevalence with online because of online's existence in the first place.
Do you think the guy that thought about this theory, whoever this person may be, or maybe it was just a group of stuff
that
from
came
back
up
then?
with these?
Man, it's too bad they didn't buy
digital
Bitcoin.
Currency? Yeah,
dude, there was a guy that I don't know what it was called, but he had all this Bitcoin that he had bought, or he got. He had like thousands of Bitcoin, and then he used that Bitcoin to pay for a pizza. So this pizza guy got paid, or he paid somebody
in Bitcoin. Yeah,
did he feel like a fool?
I bet.
yeah, that's something. That's a good one.
That is.
The listeners are good ones.
Yeah, the listeners. If you another,
you guys are theories.
Exactly. I'm sure you guys have.
Each and every one of you are theories yourselves.
We're all a theory. Yeah. Why are we here? That's the question. But that's a good time to plug real quick. But whenever you guys, seriously, if you have ideas on theories that you want us to cover, or it's not even theories specifically, it could be a big theory, or it could be certain topics that there may be theories about. So yeah, definitely on any of our socials, definitely hit us up on that. We'll go over that at the end and let you know what those are. But
you guys stay to the end to find out our socials will tell you.
That's right. If you guys want to follow us on more things, it's definitely not obvious in our name.
Yeah, you'll never find us. We're hidden in the internet. We're a theory ourselves.
All right, and guys, we're gonna from there we're gonna move into our next topic. We will be right back with that. The Waco Siege. The Waco siege was a 51-day standoff between the United States government and the Branch Davidians, a religious group led by David Koresh that began on February 28, 1993, in Waco, Texas. The siege ended on April 19, 1993, when the FBI launched an assault on the compound, leading to a fire that killed 76 people, including Koresh and 25 children. The siege began when the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, attempted to execute and search a warrant on the compound, suspecting that the Branch Davidians were stockpiling illegal weapons. The initial raid resulted in a shootout that left 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians dead. The FBI took over the siege after the initial raid, surrounding the compound with tanks and negotiating with Koresh and his followers. The negotiations were often tense and unproductive, with both sides accusing the other of bad faith. On April 19th, the FBI launched a tear gas assault on the compound in an attempt to force the Branch Davidians out. A fire broke out shortly afterward, and the entire compound was consumed, killing most of the people inside. The exact cause of the fire remains a subject of controversy, with some suggesting that the FBI's actions may have sparked the blaze. The Waco siege remains a controversial and polarizing event in American history, with some seeing it as an example of government overreach and others as a necessary response to a dangerous and fanatical group. The incident led to significant changes in how law enforcement agencies handle sieges and negotiations, and it continues to be studied and debated to this day. All right, guys, so we're going to get in. This one's a little bit heavier.
It was intense.
But the Waco siege is definitely something that I find super intriguing, and I think a lot of you guys do as well.
Yeah, it does sound really interesting.
It is, and it shows, it is sad, but it shows a lot of different things here, because you have religious extremists, and then there's the government. So
it's really hard to tell what happened.
It is, and that's why it's such a good ground place for theories.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so some of the ones that kind of come out of it is this one is kind of obvious, but government cover-up. Now this one's kind of interesting. Some people believe that the government's actions during the siege were part of a larger conspiracy to suppress dissent and establish control over the population. They argue that the Branch Davidians were peaceful and the government used excessive force against them. So
I don't put it past them.
You don't put it past them?
I'm sorry about that story, but yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly.
I mean, it's possible that it was a way to set a precedence early on that they were trying to control different groups.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have to argue and say that I really don't. It was definitely poorly handled. That ATF, FBI did a terrible job. But I don't think specifically it was a cover-up scenario. But I mean, it's a theory.
Yeah, it's hard to really tell. But there is a lot of examples, even before this or probably after this, where the government or FBI or whoever federal agency uses excessive force on us beautiful civilians.
Yeah, and Brandon, I know you haven't looked a lot into this, but I know you can definitely bring a lot to the table as far as your opinion on it.
Sure.
So the next thing is there's this religious leader. His name was David Koresh, and his culpability in it. So this is another theory.
So is this guy like Charles Manson?
No.
Not as...
Not to... He was seeing himself as like a second coming of Jesus.
Well, I mean, didn't Charles Manson do sort of the same kind of thing?
Yeah, but he was like murdering people.
Well, this guy didn't do it.
He didn't intentionally murder people. Okay. He didn't
murder anybody. Charles Manson? Just kidding.
Definitely not.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yeah, no, terrible.
He brainwashed people for sure.
Okay, so here kind of gives you a little background on this guy and a theory about him.
Okay.
Others believe that David Koresh, the leader of the Branch Davidians, so Davidians were his people, his devout followers.
Davidians.
Yeah. So
his followers.
They believe he was responsible for the death of his followers. They argue that Koresh was a dangerous cult leader who was stockpiling weapons and abusing children, and that the government had a responsibility to take action against him. So that is an interesting thing.
Sick piece of crap.
Yeah, well, I mean, think of it. Let me tell you how sick he was. He would just so he could get his word out, he would send. He was speaking with negotiators, and he would allow children out slowly if they would do things for him.
That's stupid.
And I mean, he took their devout following faith of him specifically and just used it against them. I mean, there was even people. If there's a documentary out there on Netflix, actually,
Sounds like you're just a giant control freak. Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's a documentary if anybody wants to go watch that on Netflix.
There's a lot of documentaries
to get refreshed on it.
A lot of the stuff that we talk about probably today.
Oh, I'm sure. And
Sponsors.
I mean, there's multiple people on there that came out after the events, that survived the events, and some of them are still obsessed with David Koresh. So it shows how much he mentally affected them.
Yeah, that's basically like Charles Manson.
Yeah,
like he brainwashed these people, and they would have like these gibberish ritual settings, and just he would call them his children, and that kind of thing. So pretty similar in some ways.
I would definitely agree. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about theory-wise is it was, once again I said how poorly this was handled on both sides. There was a lot of issues there, but it's a theory if it was an accident or an intentional fire, because the fire is what ended the event.
Yeah, which conveniently.
How
long did it go on? You say 51 days?
It was 51 days, and there was pressure from the public for the government to make it end because it was going on too long. And so, okay, there are a few
the people under the people that don't listen to that are like the dark side of the government, that like don't have to abide by the same rules. So they just called them up. It's like, hey, we need you to help us in this.
Well, I mean, they were all
that could
officials.
be just too crazy theory. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep one. There was a lot of they're all government officials. They were all wearing stuff outside there. It's just.
I mean, I'm not saying I hate the government, or anything like that. We got to have it, but like.
Oh, absolutely.
But
it was just those specific, in my opinion, those specific departments at those specific times. It was a gross use of their power.
Yeah.
But anyways, this theory is that about how the fire that consumed the compound started. Some believe that the fire was an accident caused by the FBI's use of tear gas, while others argue that the FBI intentionally started the fire to end the standoff. But
is there an inspection?
There in the documentary,
a friend of mine is a fire department person. He'd probably be able to see it.
Yeah. Well, there was audio.
To know anyway.
There was audio at the end of the documentary that actually there was audio that David and the other followers were talking about putting hay in different areas inside the building and catching it on fire. So you think it's a no-brainer.
Is that on like YouTube and stuff?
You should be able to find it on YouTube. I mean,
if we find it, we'll play the clip.
Yeah.
If we want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we definitely, overall,
Speaking of crazy things.
What's that?
You're crazy, bro.
Well, with that, overall.
That guy was crazy.
Yeah, Waco was a crazy event. And that, honestly, it was a crazy thing, and it had a lot of theories that came out of it. So, we're going to go ahead and take a break there, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
The Y2K, or year 2000 theory. It was a widespread belief that in the late 1990s, computer systems around the world would fail at the turn of the millennium due to the programming glitch. The theory was that the computer systems that used only 2 digits to represent the year, such as 99 instead of 1999, would interpret the year as 2000 or as 1900 instead of 2000. This would cause widespread system failures and the potentially catastrophic events or consequences. The fear was that the failure of the critical systems such as banking, air, traffic control, and power grids could result in widespread chaos, disruption, and even societal collapse. Now, this fear led to its extensive preparations and investments in updating and fixing computer systems, known as the Y2K remediation. However, the millennium approached, many people began to doubt the severity of this problem and whether it would be blown out of proportion. In the end, the Y2K bug turned out to be less severe than initially feared, due in large part to extensive preparations made to fix the issue. What do you think about that one, Zach?
Oh, Y2K is one that we definitely are excited to talk about.
There's a few theories that we're going to go over with this one.
Oh yeah, it's chock full of them. This was the crazy. This was a crazy event.
I watched a few YouTube videos, and I think there's a big old documentary on it as well.
I'd be down. I'd really like to watch that, honestly.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different things around it. People literally thought the end of the world was coming. So like basically everybody was theorizing doomsday as they normally do. Yep. And they believed that the Y2K bug would cause disruption and chaos, which it actually did. There were people stockpiling food, tons of essentials and water. If you guys were around at that time, feel free to let us know if you remember it.
Yeah.
I was alive, but I don't remember it, so that's good.
I was definitely too young for that.
So all these people were arguing that the computer systems would fail to recognize the year 2000. And the main thing because of that was because computer programs back in the day, it was like a 60s or so. The reason that they had that, you're like, why would they do that? Why would they set it to 99 instead of 1999? It was to save memory. Memory was very expensive back then, and these programmers did that on the date down there to save memory.
See, so Brandon knows this a lot more than I do.
I know quite a bit, just not as much as I'd like to.
He's a tech head.
Well, sure. I read it, or I watched some stuff on it as well. But yeah, so that was the main reason. But yeah, people did stockpile a lot of stuff.
Okay,
it was crazy.
On the other side here, there's conspiracy theories about it as well. Some believe
for sure
that the Y2K bug.
I've never heard these though.
Yeah, this is interesting. I don't think either one of us,
because this was literally a global event that happened.
Yeah, this was real. This occurred. I was talking to someone the other day. I brought up that we were going to go over this, and he had never heard of it.
No. Well, there's actually another theory. I don't have all of it in my head exactly, but there's another theory of when it might happen again. And that's when I can't remember how. It's like the bit system. It'll finally go over. I think it's like you guys let me know for sure what it is if you can. It's like maybe 3000 or so.
Okay.
Or maybe year 3. It might be year 3000.
I hope that it would occur again.
But it's because the bits, the zeros and ones, the bits are going to all be lined up as one in the system, and they're afraid that might cause issues. So there you go.
Okay, so it kind of seems like we're going like full circle there.
And then again after that, though.
Yeah, then it's
gonna happen again
and again.
Yeah.
Well, we as human nature is to do things like this, where we always theorize a end of world event.
I think we like that.
We do.
We like chaos.
We do, and drama.
I like chaos.
Okay, so back to the theories.
Back to topic.
Y2K, there was a conspiracy theory out there that the Y2K bug was a hoax or a deliberate scare tactic created by governments and corporations to generate fear and sell products.
Dude, that
is a very
I feel that when COVID was going down, and like the fear of missing out. Well, not only the fear of missing out, but the fear of
missing toilet paper.
Yeah, you guys remember that toilet paper? It was because
I'm sure everyone remembers. It's still pretty fresh.
Yeah, FEMA was like trying to tell people to to be prepared, but nobody obviously went to what they said. They just went
no one's gonna do organized. Everyone's gonna rush. I mean, that was kind of the same feeling here. But yeah, they argued that the Y2K bug was not a real problem, and then the media had exaggerated its potential impact. Which, I mean, they're pretty right. Yeah, it definitely caused a lot of problems. It caused everyone to overreact. What's another good theory there, Brandon?
Well, definitely. Let me think for a second. Let me play some music for you. Well, a lot of people really thought overall. Speaking of Jeopardy, it was Jeopardy, right?
What you just did?
Yeah, it was money.
That was Jeopardy.
Speaking of money, is the economic consequences of the Y2K. So a lot of people believe that the Y2K bug would have serious economic consequences, leading to stock market crashes, which in 2008, that was, you guys remember that? Well, if you're alive. leading to that, bank failures, and other financial problems. They also argued that Y2K bug would undermine confidence in people in the global economy and cause long-term damage, which people were literally scared, which goes back to the fear conspiracy thing. They were scared that things were going to happen, so they were, and the ATMs would not work because of this bug.
Well,
So they were pulling out their money.
yeah.
All people going to the banks, people going to ATMs, and they were just.
I was going to say that I think the most interesting thing about that is that as far as finances are concerned, that just doing that to people in general, causing fear, and that is actually going to make them make bad financial decisions and pull money out of stock market, cause crash. I mean, you can do it if you're a big enough person.
Here's a theory for you. I hate to interrupt you, but it just popped in my head. What if, I don't know the full story of 2008, but what if some of these consequences from all this led to the 2008,
well, there is a doc. I mean, I'm sure in some way it probably played a little, but I know that there was actually, I watched a movie on that recently that that was because people were playing with other people's money. They were playing with like the stocks and things like that. I forgot what it's called, but essentially,
Wolf on Wall Street.
No, not Wolf of Wall
That's
Street.
a movie.
Yeah, of course I can't remember it right now, but it was a pretty good. Shorts. It was shorting. People were shorting the stocks, and they
sounds like Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah, I know, but this movie is literally, it's a different movie, but they literally short stocks. So they shorted. They went up against the housing market and tried to short the housing market stocks, and it caused the entire thing just to collapse. It was crazy.
There was some weird bank stuff going on too, not too long ago as well. People were freaking out recently as well.
That's true. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, guys, sure. I think we'll go ahead and end Y2K there. When we come back, we are going to move in to your childhood, and that is dark theories about Nickelodeon cartoons.
Yeah, you guys get ready for this one. I'm sorry.
Nickelodeon 90s TV show, Dark Theories. We take a look into the dark underbelly of many beloved 90s cartoons and try to expose their secrets and ruin your childhood along the way. We all had favorite cartoons and remember them fondly. But what if there were more to these cartoons than what you saw on the surface? Or if even what you saw you couldn't believe they actually put right in front of your face?
Real monsters. Let me tell you about this one there.
I'm curious. What are we gonna get into with dark theories about Nickelodeon shows?
All right. So if you guys don't remember what All Real Monsters is, it was a little TV show. If you do remember, it had this weird mutated creatures. One of them had its eyeballs in its hand. I forget their names. Here it is.
One was like a big stick with eyes and lips. It was just.
It's beautiful. Okay, so this was Ickis. Oh, it's Crumb, Ickis, and Oblina.
Oblina.
So let me read a bit about it here and see what the theory is. Looks very interesting. It says, while fans have drawn similarities between All Real Monsters and the Pixar film Monsters, Inc., the themes of the show were particularly dark. Sci-Fi actually points out that the show had references to films like A Clockwork Orange and Beetlejuice. The show's harmful stereotypes are explained by Geek Girl Authority, making the show seem impractical for children to watch, apparently. Yet the dark theme of Real Monsters is more philosophical in nature. The monster's survival was based on human fear, hence why Ickis, Oblina, and Crumb attend school to learn to be scary.
Well, okay. I mean, that one's pretty interesting. I see it kind of is the premise of the show, and I mean, I definitely think anyone
it's not really. That's not really dark.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I mean, I could feel it. That's just number 11. That's why it's number 11.
Yeah.
If you guys would like to reference our link we were reading, it's movieweb.com if you want to look them up for yourself.
Yeah, check them out. All right, up next, we have the show The Angry Beavers.
Now, this is a good show.
Yeah. Does everyone remember that? Okay, so The Angry Beavers centers on Norbit and
Is it? It's Daggett.
Daggett. Norbit and Daggett, I'm
Daggett?
pretty sure.
Daggett?
Who are beaver brothers that chose to live as bachelors in the forest. They live in an... Okay,
It's basically
the theory...
me and Zach before we got hitched.
Okay. Yeah, essentially. We had our little bachelor's pad.
Now I'm just an angry old beaver.
So the theory is that they live in an AI-powered dam, and while they have forest enemies, a few elements in the show point to a more nefarious theory.
There's the word again, nefarious theory.
Nefarious. First, their dam is an electronically advanced more than any other home in the forest. A few times in the show, a cameraman or microphone is in the scene. That's kind of interesting. Finally,
I do remember that.
Like seeing the cameraman
Like
or
on
the microphone.
What's that pole called that they put?
Oh, the speed.
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah.
We're not very good with stuff.
At all.
We
don't know stuff. Finally, the brothers' main nemesis is scientist number one. Boom Mike, yeah, that was it. Who is constantly catching and releasing the beavers. All these elements point to the beavers being scientific experiments that are being documented for environmental purposes.
So the beavers are just experiments, and they're inside of an AI thing.
I could see that. Like, if they talk about how their scientists is their main nemesis, like, why? How else would that make sense?
It's a pretty good one.
Okay.
I believe that. We'll move on to SpongeBob. Oh, sorry, I want to do SpongeBob.
This one is pretty crazy.
All right, so this show is SpongeBob SquarePants, and everybody knows who SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't care what age you are.
There's no way.
He lives in Bikini Bottom, okay? And he's a sponge with his friend Patrick. Anyway, this theory suggests that the characters represent the 7 deadly sins, or drugs, and psychedelics, guys.
This one definitely seems a little reaching.
Okay, so they even reference to drug use in the show, apparently. Allegedly, these theories are rather dark and... what?
Disturbing. Rather dark and disturbing.
I was reading forward. They're very disturbing. One of these dark theories suggests that Bikini Bottom is a result of a nuclear explosion, and it's based on real-life nuclear testing site Bikini Atoll. According to, how do you say that?
Burke Museum. The darkest theory of SpongeBob SquarePants is actually that SpongeBob died in season 4. Oh, I wonder what the depth of that is. Like, what is the theory behind him dying in season 4?
So they're basically on a real life nuclear testing site, which would explain a lot of the weirdness in the show. And do you remember the one main thing that I remember from SpongeBob the most that sticks on my head all these years later is there's an episode where they go deep down into the dark side of the other Bikini Bottom.
Oh, where there's that drop off.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah,
that was like one of the weirdest episodes ever.
That was, and
something weird about it.
This would be a great time to bring up that if you guys like any of these specific theories that you want us to go more in depth on, we totally can. Just let us know if you like any of these and you want to hear more about what that potential theory was.
Yeah, just feel free to add us anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Good old @ symbol.
All right, at number 8, we have Doug.
Good old Doug.
So, yeah, of course, Doug was,
that's Skeeter.
Skeeter,
I'm like Doug Fran Skeeter whenever I meet her. Skeeter, okay. So I'm going to not say that now.
Skeeter's so hard, people call her back.
Shut up. Get us demonetized.
Yeah, that's true. We don't want to do that.
Rich.
Okay, so Doug, if you guys remember the show Doug, essentially this theory about the show Doug is it's apparently one of the more disturbing theories.
Oh my God,
so proceed with caution. Doug withdraws from family and friends through hallucinations that he is Quailman, an alter ego of his who he protects his friends. This alter ego may be the biggest tie into the dark theory. Mr. Dink, one of Doug's neighbors, is thought to be a pedophile who targets Doug.
God.
It's possible that Doug's withdrawing behavior, like daydreaming or having an alter ego who's protective, can also be a manifestation of coping with abuse.
Well, that one was a lot of something that I don't really like.
I
don't like that one at all.
That one is really far-reaching. I mean, that'd be crazy to think of.
I remember
that's the thought process going on there.
Yeah,
I
don't believe that.
I don't think that has any validity.
I'm giving that one a nope for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna do cat dog. Gotta get cat dog. Now, cat dog is a show up at a cat and a dog, right? So
Yeah.
they basically share one body, and they just chill out on the couch most of the time, and they just do funny things that cat and dogs do. But they share one body, and they live in a house with a rat. That's their pet, or their roommate, actually. The dark theory behind this show is very reminiscent of the two other Nickelodeon shows that we just talked about. First, Cat Dog is possibly the result of a nuclear explosion, so some experiments, similar to the SpongeBob that we talked about over in Bikini Bottom.
I mean, I could definitely see this for Cat Dog.
Yeah, I can see it for Cat Dog. I always wondered how they pooped.
Yeah.
That's a theory. You
That's
guys got some theories about how they poop?
yeah, that's one we would have to dive deep on because there's so much about how the bodies would work together, and if we'll even have on a doctor that can describe how that works.
Yeah, we'll bring on a professional vet to figure it out.
Yeah, we need a vet. That's true.
Yeah, we need a vet. All right. Anyway, the theory is that cat dog are also science experiments being followed and studied by humans. So you got Norbert and Daggett, and the Angry Beavers, except the humans in cat dog are disguised as animals. So all the animals you see in the show are just humans disguised.
And they're just studying Cat Dog?
Cat dog.
All right, so up next we have the Ren and Stimpy show. Now, in my opinion, that show was already pretty eccentric enough. It was extremely weird and over the top.
And he's sawing the piece of wood.
Oh my, yes.
We watched this show.
Talk about actually,
I kind of remember it, but I might have blocked it out because of the childhood trauma.
The childhood trauma. I was going to say anything we bring
Like
up.
this podcast if you have childhood trauma.
Anything on here isn't going to even come close to just that show in general. Yeah. So a theory about this, I mean, it's already a theory in itself, but so it's a chihuahua named Ren and a cat named Stimpy. They spend their days pretending to be astronauts, cowboys, or other kinds of explorers through daydreams that the audience can see. So much like the disturbing theory behind Doug, the Angry Beavers, and Cat Dog, that Ren and Stimpy are victims of animal abuse.
What? I could see that.
While
strange.
We can know the signs of abuse in children, knowing the signs of animal abuse are just as important.
Exactly.
Especially when adopting a rescue. Well,
which
victims of animal abuse.
I've always supported adopting rescues.
Oh, for sure.
We're not going to ever be sponsored by PetSmart. Sorry, PetSmart.
Yeah,
I've heard some really bad things about you guys.
Really?
Yeah, the way they treat their animals and stuff. Somebody proved me wrong.
Do they do that?
Well, just buying dogs and animals in general is really bad. You should always go out to your local shelter.
They're always full. That's very true. They're always full.
Yeah. Even if you want an older dog, don't get a puppy unless you really want a puppy and you're going to spend the time for it. I know I'm ramping off on something else, but get a dog. Get an older dog. It's chill and wants to lay out with you.
Yeah, those ones need love too.
Just like Zach.
That's right. I need love too.
Love him.
Well, I have a wonderful wife for that.
That's a wild story, just like this next one, Zach. The wild thornberries.
I see what
Nigel.
you did there.
Yeah. You get that big old honker, I tell you. So you got Eliza there, and if you guys remember, the wild thornberries are a group of, I will say, adventurers, basically.
Oh, this one is interesting, and it makes sense. I could see it.
Yeah, so they basically travel. Where do they normally live at? Do you remember where they live at? Is it like in Australia or something?
I think they're definitely based in Australia, or they've got some British. I don't know. They're generally like English, British, Australian.
Anyway,
I don't know for sure.
But Eliza basically can talk to the animals in the show. And this theory, the main theory, revolves around Elsa's ability to speak to animals. Now, Elsa's the Nigel's, and I don't remember the
wife's name,
but that's their kid.
Yeah, it's the daughter.
It's theorized that, Elsa takes LSD, basically, or psychedelics that opens her mind, which leads her to believe that she's communicating with animals. So she's just tripping the whole show.
Yeah, so this whole time she thinks she's talking to animals when she's really not.
You could say that about a lot of like shows.
Well, yeah, anything where anybody's talking to an inanimate object.
Here's a theory for you. Get some hype in the chat for my Doctor Who fans. What if you think the Doctor, right? The Doctor isn't this alien guy from outer space, but just some crazy dude who's just like, mentally insane. Because let's say he goes into a police box one day. Or he's running from the police or whatever may have it. And he's having a really tragic event. So he has a mental break. So he pretends that he's this awesome guy, Or it could be a police officer, even. Maybe a police officer. Maybe he's a
Yeah.
police officer and he's like hiding and he's bleeding out or something inside of the police box.
Oh, well,
And
this
he's
is
like, I'm a superhero, and like,
okay.
and he's like slowly fading out of existence. And that's why
He just starts to make up all these crazy stories.
he's
in his
making up
head.
all these stories,
And that's why the police box is there,
the
because
police box is there.
either the person has either homeless, policemen, whatever,
And the
or
companions are just people coming in to use the police box to call the police. He just somehow doesn't die. I don't know how he doesn't die. Maybe he's just crazy, and instead of bleeding out, he's just
yeah.
dead.
I'd say the bleeding out thing doesn't really hold up too well, but I'd say a literally insane
every
guy
time-
who's homeless and goes and hides in a police box, maybe a call box.
Every time that he's going to a different planet or time, it's just him, somebody moving to a different place. He's like, I mean, I'm not making fun of R2. I loved R2. David Tennant's my man. I love
He
you.
is a big Doctor Who fan. Just to preface here, he
10th
absolutely
Doctor
is.
hype. And Matt Smith's pretty good too. Everybody's like, oh, everybody, I don't want to go.
Well, all right. So
yeah,
to
sorry.
continue forward here,
Just wanted to get that. That was just one I randomly thought of.
that's a really good one. I mean, it's interesting. So up next we have, and a lot of people will definitely remember this. Hey Arnold. So this one, football head. I watched this show a ton growing up. We both did. But this one, I mean, I actually, I totally see it. I mean, and it's kind of on the sad side. So it's theorized that Stoop Kid is a lookout for a drug operation. Some fans believe Arnold's grandparents are his real parents. And because of his head shape, he is bullied. I mean, yeah, that's a fact. Therefore, his friends are either imaginary or he daydreams about being friends with the kids who bully him at school.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I was boiled in school.
You were boiled alive?
I was bullied in school, probably for saying boil.
Were you a lobster?
I'm going to say right now,
I'm bullying.
I don't want to be too controversial, but dang it, stop boiling people. Stop bullying people. Seriously. I'm serious. Don't boil people. Don't bully people. I can't say boil. Boil.
Bullying.
rules.
Now you've got me messed up too. All right, so yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Seriously, don't bully people.
There is no reason to bully anyone. Anybody can have their opinions, their thoughts, and that's okay. There's no reason to stoop to doing that.
Yeah, like
Everyone,
Stoop Kid.
Like Stoop Kid.
I love Stoop Kid.
But yes, it's important that everyone remain. It's good to have friends out there, and it's good to be a nice person.
Yeah, I just wanted to put my 2 cents on that because I still feel the effects of that today.
Mm-hmm.
So people were really mean to me for various reasons, but I just wanted to make sure anybody listening, check on your kids. Kids are mean sometimes.
Yeah, check on your kids. Check on your friends, and really listen and see how people are thinking.
We don't want to lecture you, but anyway, back to the theory.
Exactly. So essentially, his friends are. Essentially, he is. There's a couple theories out there. His grandparents are his real parents. Stoop Kid is a lookout for drug operations, and because of his head shape, he's bullied. But the fact is because he's bullied, some people believe that his friends are. That he's imagining his friends or daydreaming about having friends with the kids who bully him at school. So he's taking their bullying and making it into his own little world and thinking that these are his friends.
Just like when a kid is getting bullied and like he maybe he does imagine those kids as his friend at some point. But then this is like literally physically or psychologically breaking him to come up with these hallucinations.
Yeah, it's
so,
like
hey, Arnold's just...
Yeah, well, I mean, his head shape. I mean, it wouldn't say it's far off for him to be hallucinating about anything.
I don't know how he's alive.
Yeah, that's a good question. But apparently Helga is also experiencing about the same thing there. Because apparently it's clear that Helga's mother is an alcoholic and her father is a bully. So, yeah. So basically both of them are going through a rough time in this show.
And that's why it's kind of odd, too, how their hair colors are almost...
They
look really similar. Besides their hair shape or their head shape.
Yeah.
That's something. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
It's weird. Very strange. Speaking of strange, how about Rocco's Modern Life?
Man, let me tell you.
I got a pop figure of that one.
So that show in general definitely kind of veered on the edge of a little too much sexual innuendo for children, and and that's part of this theory. So the underlying themes of Rocco's Modern Life are sexual in nature, and that's a fact. I mean, it was a pioneer in many ways. Rocco was a pioneer in many ways. He lived alone with his dog, had a rich life, and worked from home. Although his career was as a sex phone operator.
Oh my god.
He even has a game night with friends where they play a board game called Spank the Monkey.
What?
Yeah. The show is filled to the brim with sexual innuendos, and the aforementioned ones being just the tip of the iceberg. So
make sure you follow us because this video will not be monetized. Where is it? Dang it.
What are you looking for?
My screwdriver. I need to get out of this cage, man. This cage made by the man. Just like Tommy from Pickles. Tommy Pickles. From
he made good use of that blue screwdriver. He got them out of a lot of situations.
All right. Let's go on about this one here. Now, the theory about Rugrats is very interesting. It's very, very crazy. So it's all based around Angelica. Angelica is the only child, right? So she's the only child. So basically, to cope with all these different things here, the theory is that Angelica imagines that the babies are not real, meaning none of them exist at all. Chucky, for example, he died in a car accident, allegedly with his mom, so he's imagining that. Phil and Lil were one baby that was miscarried. So she can't cope with the fact of Phil and Lil because that's why there's two of them, because they didn't know the gender, so she splits it up.
Oh, that's interesting.
So in her head, that one's made up. And
I could see that.
Yeah, so she makes them up, and then Tommy died soon after he was born. So the whole theory is she's hallucinating all these people.
It's how she's coping with being an only child and the fact that there was so many things that occurred that she's literally just living in the everyday life. Yeah,
so that explains why Tommy's dad is always downstairs in the basement making toys for the kid that he never had.
Yeah,
and then
it's how he's coping.
The parents of Phil and Lil are always so busy because they're staying busy with work.
To try and not think about what has happened to them.
So it's a really interesting, depressing theory, but it's been disproven by it's not canon, at least, by the creator of Rugrats. But it's a very interesting theory.
And everything we do here is theories.
That's right.
Well, I mean, overall, I think they all brought a lot of nefarious. I thought overall they brought a lot of interesting things.
This is like 2000, but nefarious. Now I know why I keep thinking of nefarious. It's Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, yeah, nefarious, the villain.
Nefarious.
Yeah.
He had like a brain thing on his head.
Yeah, I actually just recently played the one on PS5, Rift Apart.
Yes. All right. Anyway.
So yeah, overall we thought a lot of these theories they were very interesting. I really. I wouldn't say particularly that I had a favorite.
I think if the Rugrats one wasn't disproven, I would probably still say that one's my favorite. Or if I had to choose another one just because I love the show, probably Cat Dog.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think, honestly, probably the most interesting one is SpongeBob, and eventually we may even break down more about SpongeBob theories.
Oh, there's a bunch of SpongeBob theories out there.
Oh, there has to be tons.
So, that's for sure. Oh, wait, that sounds like Peter. I can't do it. He has to move his throat when he does it.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. So, Brandon, sure. What do you think? Out of all the theories that we've listened to today,
everything we've been over,
what was your favorite theory and why?
I think out of everything we talked today.
About everything we talked about today.
I'm gonna break it up in two. The first thing, obviously, I really liked the Y2K thing. I know it was an actual event that did occur for the most part, like as far as like the preparedness and the event that it had in society and people in general. Overall, it prepared us all to upgrade things and be ready for that type of thing instead
It
of
was
just
a lot
putting
of
it off.
a lot of preparedness in general for our tech moving forward to keep the world.
Yes, from a tech perspective.
Yeah.
So for the serious thing, it's still going to be the Y2K and the other one's Rugrats.
The other one's Rugrats.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's Rugrats.
fair enough.
Rugrats.
For me, my favorite theory, I would say, was probably
Or my Doctor Who thing.
I would say what I genuinely enjoyed the most was probably the rise of the internet, and I really liked.
Yeah. I almost forgot all about the rise of the internet. I don't know how I forgot. Other than it, that was really. It's really
I
interesting
think.
stuff.
I think really my favorite theory was probably
about that one.
The global village.
That was super interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just neat how some people predicted certain things or with almost exact certainty. And those are things that really like drive it for me. This is the passion behind it.
That's fair.
You know,
I just totally forgot about it.
Yeah, that was a very good one to me. But yeah, with that, we would like to thank you guys so much for being here today. We would like to thank our wives.
I want to thank my wife for, she's been an amazing, beautiful person who has always had my back, and always, even when I was streaming a few years ago, she was always letting me do that as well. She's always supportive. So thank you very much, babe.
That was very sweet. I would also like to thank my wife Haley because she's been a huge advocate and help and getting my mindset straight through all this, and she's really helped keep everything organized for us, and she's been a genuine big help.
Amazing.
But I would also just like to say in general, guys, thank you for listening with us today, because it's very, this has been a lot of effort on our part, and this has been a lot of work.
We've had a lot of time and effort. We've changed things. Zach's mic wasn't working very well, so we're still figuring all this out.
We're still getting it. And,
but we're enjoying it, and we want to bring content to you guys, and we want to find like-minded other people like us and just have a good time,
Yeah, we really hope you enjoyed what we put together today. What we put together today for
exactly.
you. Exactly. And just like I told you earlier, we're going to go ahead and plug the socials for you. So you guys can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at the Muse Theory Podcast. Yep. And of course, actually, I wanted to tell you that now we are on all major podcast platforms. I have us set up on Spotify. I have us on Apple Podcast. I have us on Stitcher. So you'll be able to find us.
Stitcher.
Mm-hmm. You'll be able to find us on all those, and Google Podcast as well.
YouTube apparently is adding podcasts to their YouTube music, so that's too. You might be able to find us on there at some point, and we'll put the podcasts on there as well for YouTube as well if you guys want to listen there. So anywhere really, you can find us.
All right, Brandon, do you want to play us out there?
Thanks for joining us on the Muse Theory Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our musings. Please join us next week when we discuss our theories on the 1950s. We leave you with this: the world is full of questions, and all we have are theories.